Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we're doing something a little different. I've spent the last few days getting lost in the winding alleys of Jerusalem, and honestly, I couldn't just film a standard travel vlog. Every corner I turned, I felt like I was tripping over a ghost from the Roman era. Today, we are going to travel back about 2,000 years. We're going to walk the streets of Roman Jerusalem. We'll meet the megalomaniac kings who built it, the governors who tried to control it, and the rebels who ultimately saw it burn. We're uncovering the story of a city that was the glittering jewel of the East, and how its collision with the Roman Empire changed the world forever. Grab a coffee, settle in, and let's go back in time. Chapter 1. The Years and Timeline. To understand Roman Jerusalem, we have to talk about how the Romans got here in the first place. It wasn't an overnight invasion, it was more like a slow, suffocating embrace. The year is 63 BCE, the Roman general Pompey the Great is sweeping through the east. Jerusalem at the time was ruled by the Hasmoneans, the descendants of the Maccabees, but they were busy fighting a civil war between two brothers. Pompey, being a Roman, saw an opportunity. He didn't just walk in, he besieged the Temple Mount. When he finally broke through, he did something unthinkable. He walked straight into the Holy of Holies, the most sacred spot in Jewish law where only the high priest could go. He found it empty, no idols, just a silent room, but the message was clear: Rome was now the boss. From that moment until 324 CE, Jerusalem was tied to the Roman fate. Think of this timeline in 3 big acts. The Golden Age of building, 40 BCE, 4 BCE. This is the era of Herod the Great. He was Rome's client king. He was brutal, yes, but he turned Jerusalem into one of the most beautiful cities in the ancient world. The era of tensions, 6 CE, 66 CE. Rome gets tired of client kings and sends in direct governors, the prefects and procurators. This is the era of Pontius Pilate. The air is electric with rebellion. The catastrophe, 66 CE, 70 CE, the Great Revolt. It ends with the total destruction of the temple, and much of the city. The rebirth as Aelia Capitolina, 135 CE, 324 CE. After another failed revolt, Emperor Hadrian literally tries to erase Jerusalem, renaming it and building a pagan city over the ruins. It's a timeline written in blood and marble. Chapter 2. The Kings and Rulers. You can't talk about Roman Jerusalem without talking about Herod the Great. Now, great is a tricky word here. He was a great builder but a terrible human being. He was paranoid, executing his own wife and sons, but he had the vision of a master architect. Herod was a man caught between two worlds. He wanted to be a Jewish king to please his subjects, but he was a Roman citizen at heart who loved luxury and Roman power. He spent decades expanding the Temple Mount, doubling its size until it was the largest religious complex in the Roman Empire. When travelers saw it from a distance, they said it looked like a mountain covered in snow because the white marble was so bright it blinded you in the sun. But Herod died and things got messy. Rome stopped trusting local kings and started sending their own men on the ground. Enter the Roman governors. The name we all know is Pontius Pilate. But if you look at the historical records, Pilate wasn't just a figure from a Sunday school lesson. He was a tough, often insensitive Roman administrator. He had to keep the peace in a city that hated his presence. Imagine being a Roman soldier posted here. You're from a culture that worships dozens of gods, and you're sent to a city that worships only one, where people are willing to die just because you brought a Roman banner with an eagle on it into their sacred space. The governors lived in the Praetorium, likely Herod's old palace. They sat on the Bema, the judgment seat, deciding the fates of rebels, thieves, and preachers. There was a constant simmering friction between the Roman desire for order and the Jewish desire for religious freedom. It was a pressure cooker waiting to blow. Chapter 3. The City Itself. If I could take you back to the year 30 CE, right in the middle of a major festival like Passover, your senses would be completely overwhelmed. First, the scale. Jerusalem was a vertical city. It sat on hills, so everything felt like it was towering over you. You'd enter through the Jaffa Gate or the Damascus Gate, and immediately, you'd be on a Roman street. These weren't just dirt paths, these were the Cardos, wide paved boulevards, lined with massive Corinthian columns. Underneath your feet, there was a sophisticated drainage system, some of which you can still walk through today in the city of David. To your right would be the upper city. This is where the wealthy lived, the priests and the aristocrats. We're talking about Roman-style villas with beautiful mosaics, private ritual baths, mikvaot, and views of the temple. To your left, the lower city. This was the heart of the real Jerusalem. Tight, crowded alleys, small limestone houses packed together, the smell of wood smoke and baking bread. But everything centered on the temple. It wasn't just a building, it was an ecosystem. There were the royal stoa, a massive pillared hall where money changers and merchants gathered. There were the southern steps, where thousands of pilgrims from across the Roman world, from Alexandria, Rome and Babylon, would wash in the baths and walk up into the courts. And don't forget the Antonia Fortress. This was a grim, four-towered Roman barracks that literally overlooked the temple courts. Roman soldiers stood on those walls every day, looking down at the worshippers, hands on their swords, ready to rush down the stairs at the first sign of a riot. It was a city of extreme beauty and extreme tension. Chapter 4. What history was warning us about. As I walk through the archaeological parks here today, I see these massive stones lying on the ground, exactly where they fell 2,000 years ago. It's haunting. It makes you realize that the golden age of Roman Jerusalem was actually a countdown. The warning signs were everywhere. The heavy Roman taxes were crushing the poor. The Roman governors were becoming increasingly corrupt, sometimes even stealing from the temple treasury. Small groups of rebels, known as the Zealots, or the Sicarii, daggermen, began assassinating Roman collaborators in broad daylight. In 66 CE, the thread finally snapped. A full-scale revolt broke out. The Jewish rebels actually managed to kick the Romans out of the city for a few years. They even minted their own coins that said, "Freedom of Zion." Can you imagine the hope they felt? The belief that they had finally beaten the greatest empire on earth. But Rome didn't lose. Rome just took its time. The Emperor Nero sent his best general, Vespasian, and his son Titus. They systematically took the country, and in 70 CE, they surrounded Jerusalem. The siege was horrific. Inside the walls, people were starving. Outside, the Romans were building massive ramps and battering rams. The story goes that Titus wanted to save the temple because it was such a magnificent work of architecture, but in the chaos of the battle, a soldier tossed a torch through a window. The whole thing went up. The gold melted and ran between the stones. The Romans literally overturned the rocks to get to the gold. When you stand at the foot of the Temple Mount today and see those toppled stones left in a heap, you're looking at the exact moment the Roman era of Jerusalem turned from a story of building into a story of ruins. After the revolt was crushed, the Romans stayed. They didn't leave. The 10th Legion, Fretensis, set up camp right in the ruins. Later, in 130 CE, Emperor Hadrian decided to finish the job. He banned Jews from the city and built a pagan colony called Aelia Capitolina. He built a temple to Jupiter where the Jewish temple once stood, and a temple to Venus where many believe the crucifixion took place. But here's the crazy thing. By trying to erase the history, he actually preserved it. By building over the sacred sites, he marked them for future generations. Standing here now, looking at the sunset over the Jerusalem stone, you realize that Rome didn't win in the way they thought they would. The empire is gone, the legions are dust, but the city is still here, built layer upon layer, stone upon stone. The Roman period wasn't just a time of occupation, it was the crucible that shaped the modern world. It's where East met West in a violent, beautiful, and world-changing collision. But this is just the beginning of the journey. In our next episode, we're going to fast forward. We're going to look at what happened when the Roman Empire stopped being pagan and started being Christian. We're talking about the Byzantine era, the time of Empress Helena, the discovery of the true cross, and the building of the Holy Sepulchre. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the dust and glory of ancient Jerusalem, do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss part 2. And I want to hear from you in the comments. What part of Jerusalem's history should we explore next? Are you more interested in the Crusader Knights, the Ottoman walls, or maybe the hidden underground tunnels? Thanks for walking with me through history today. I'll see you in the next one.